I think I've finally done it. I've got my recording set up here in a little corner of my abode with a microphone and a light. After 14 years of doing this for work, finally, I think I'm going to have good audio and video. So, ta-da! Here we go. Real estate update for you mid-March 2022, Panama from Panama Equity Real Estate. Here I am. Okay, guys, so let's start in the city. It's really interesting as I'm talking to other brokers. You have real estate agencies that focus on overseas buyers, us being one of them, although we certainly don't discriminate. I mean, we do a lot of business with Panamanians, and I would even consider, Colombians, Venezuelans that have been here for a long time, kind of in the local category. But most of our buyers these days are coming from overseas, and real estate agencies with that focus seem to be very busy. However, the interesting takeaway I had after speaking with quite a few agents over the weekend in preparation for this little broadcast, whatever you want to call it, update, is the following. Local buyers are not as active as foreign buyers in terms of the number of transactions happening right now in Panama. Most buyers are coming from overseas. We are seeing a continual stream of Americans, Canadians. We've always had that market. A lot of Europeans, obviously war in Ukraine, soft economy, whatever their reasons, maybe increased taxes or the ability to have, permanent residence over here with the territorial tax system that we've got in place. Foreigners are continuing to buy in Panama, but locals are only kind of getting the few and far between like distressed properties. And we sell distressed properties as well, obviously, but there aren't that many of them left. And that means that there aren't that many locals doing transactions other than for the normal reasons, which are, having kids, getting a divorce, getting a place out at the beach. Point is, I wouldn't call it a K-shaped recovery by any means because foreigners have always comprised the majority of the real estate ownership along kind of certain stretches like Balboa Avenue, for example, although there are a lot of, don't get me wrong, a lot of Panamanians, a lot of locals that live on Balboa Avenue. Many of them live in Bella Vista, which is right behind Balboa Avenue. Lots of locals in Punta Pacifica, lots of locals in Costa del Este, lots of locals in Santa Maria. Santa Maria is continuing to follow that property market. It's sort of like all markets, ups and downs, right? But it came way down about a year and a half ago as everybody was sort of like checking themselves and saying, whoa, why did we just put $50,000 down on a brand new condo? I mean, hey, we want to be next to our neighbors, but that we still have to sell our place in fill in the blank neighborhood in Costa del Este or Punta Pacifica. Point is, Santa Maria started to come up. Okay, so let's talk micro for a second. That was kind of macro, local versus international buyers, still dominated by international buyers for all the right reasons, I would say, not necessarily what's going on in Panama, although, hey, we still have awesome weather. We still have wonderful people. We still have, what else do we have? It's kind of affordable. It's not really cheaper than the U.S. right now, I would say, visiting Reba Smith as we do. Groceries aren't cheap. Healthcare is still cheap. Transportation is still cheap. Inflation, I would say, has been relatively checked, but not really. I mean, it's not like we're seeing in the States where, 10% inflation. I haven't seen the consumer goods index or whatever they use to track inflation, but hey, it's happening in Panama, but not as extreme. I don't know why. We still import a lot of stuff. I think maybe it's because of the disparate economy in terms of the haves and the have-nots. It's not a huge middle class, although it's getting bigger. So let's talk rents, staying in the city a little bit. Rents have come up. Not drastically, but they're definitely come up. Hey, we have a comment. Thank you, John. It's nice to know people are watching. Hey, I'm able to purchase property or small condo in Panama, even though I'm 63, not retired yet. Come on, John. Of course you can buy a condo or a house. Perhaps your question is related to financing. And yes, we do have lenders who will finance, folks 60s plus. It's all a function of the insurance, because banks or lenders expect you to have life insurance such that obviously your mortgage is paid off, or at least is a beneficiary of your death benefit. So yeah, that's always the rub in terms of getting financing when you are 60 plus, but it's doable, absolutely doable. I would advise you, sir, that the first thing they're going to check is to see how long you're at your current job, and then all the regular stuff, debt to income, yeah, just everything you would expect along the lines of financing, sir. Hey, John Breyer, along the lines of financing, Mr. Newsom, banks are still lending. The rates are high here. Woo, 6 to 7%, closer to 7 if you're a foreigner, which kind of takes all the juice out of a rental property unless you buy it really, really low and rent it really, really high, which, hey, we do that every time. No, not really. So it's a little tricky if you're bringing in leverage from traditional bank financing. Now, we always have different sources. Maybe that's seller financing, maybe that's developer financing, and hey, maybe you can pull out equity from properties you own in the States and essentially buy cash in Panama. So to answer your question. All right. So yeah, rents are coming up, which means that property prices are slowly starting to come up, but not that much. Don't feel like you have to buy tomorrow. Although I do like the long-term possibilities for Panama. Strong dollar still is not helping us. I was hoping, change in administration up north that, hey, maybe we would have some weakening of the dollar, which when you're selling dollar-based assets is awesome, right? Obviously, weaker dollar means more Europeans. Anybody that's not on the dollar and earning on something other than the dollar, then real estate gets cheaper for them, right? That's just sort of basic, what would you call that? Forex, I suppose. That hasn't happened yet. When that happens, woo, look out. Sky's the limit. And, so that's kind of one thing you could watch for as sort of a trigger or a tipping point of, oh boy, now I do need to get down to Panama to buy something, is if you see that the value of the dollar is going down. In other words, hey, yeah, it's that, right? If euros cost you more money, or if whatever currency you're looking at becomes more expensive for you, anyway, you get it. That's could be a potential tipping point for Panama. Another tipping point, which has been kind of like a slow burn, I guess the opposite of a tipping point perhaps, is Airbnbs in Panama. Holy cow, they're everywhere in the city, yet they're still technically illegal. We do not encourage investors to build a business model around Airbnb, because anything under, I think it's 30 days, 45 days, I should know that, is considered illegal. Now, people are getting around it by essentially, advertising for 1 month stays and then allowing for shorter stays. This administration, under Nito Cortizo, with the current housing minister, or I guess it's really kind of like the Minister of Commerce and Tourism, Minister of Commerce, excuse me, they have bigger fish to fry than going on a witch hunt for Airbnb. And Costco is full of them. Balboa Avenue is full of them. The former Trump building is also full of them. However, if you are looking at Airbnb as a potential business model, in addition to what I said earlier, it's very building dependent, because your building could put the kibosh, could restrict it with one vote. And then your security guys will not let in people that they don't know, which becomes a huge problem when you're letting in your backpackers to stay in your place. That said, there are buildings that are very friendly to it. I'm not going to mention those because, again, it's not part of our model. But Airbnb, if they flip the switch on Airbnb, game on. We'll jump into that market. We're already managing a few Airbnbs outside of the city, and hey, occupancy is awesome. So it's a nice, wonderful, flexible model to own a property, rental income, use it when you want it. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the interior, i.e. Panama's beaches and mountains areas, i.e. anywhere outside of Panama City. Beaches are still very popular with all the usual suspects: Canadians, Germans, Americans, Dutch. So, yeah, Europeans, South Americans. I mean, we were getting a big push from Peru, a bit of a push with the new regime is not the right word. The new government in Chile, kind of left leaning. So that was good for business for a while. We're not seeing that quite as much anymore out at the beach. Beach is still a buyer's market all day long. And there was a lot of construction out there. It is getting absorbed. We still love that stretch. They call it the Gold Coast. Nobody really calls it the Gold Coast, but I guess somewhere it once got called the Gold Coast, and it's a nice way to describe the area from Gorgona out to Buenaventura, which is starting at about an hour outside the city. There are still deals to be had. Tell you what, game changers will be when that road is done. That road being the road that parallels for quite a long time the Inter-American Highway going outside of Panama City. That's also going to have the train or the metro, which is happening. It's not a plan. It's in motion. Things are happening right now. In that regard, we're still a couple years away. But man, imagine anybody that's watching this that lives in Panama, Friday afternoon, you want to go to the beach? Wait till the nighttime or leave in the morning, because from 3 p.m. till about 7 p.m., it is gnarly. What should be a 45-minute drive ends up being a much longer drive. Let's call it 2 hours, 3 hours, por ahí. So once this road is going to be done, it's going to be awesome. And it's still a couple years away, but that will be huge. Hey, Mia Jones. David, I don't. Although I love David, I especially love Boquete. We refer people to Casa Solutions. They've been good to our clients over the years. I cannot comment on real estate in David other than generally it's cheaper. Cost of living is cheaper. Cost of real estate is cheaper. It tends to be a little hotter, if you can believe that. You got to like the tropics if you move to Panama, unless you live up in the mountains, and then you're still in the tropics. So David is slightly hotter. Obviously, for those that don't know, David is, we'll call it 6-hour drive to from Panama City-ish, depending on traffic. And yeah, that's about where my insight ends. Mia, sorry. David is in Chiriquí. Chiriquí is beautiful. It's one of the bordering provinces of Costa Rica. So let's see. What else can I tell you guys about new construction, development? So developers are selling because developers, remember, mostly sell to foreign buyers. Why? I don't know. I mean, hey, that's a huge generalization because many, many Panamanians have purchased real estate from developers over the years. But traditionally, I would say 3 out of every 4 pre-construction condo or housing sales in the center of the city are going to be being sold to foreign buyers. That said, in areas like Arraiján, etc., obviously that's totally different. It's a local market. Those are homes for, $80,000 to $150,000 type thing. So what's going on with developers? They're selling, they're turning units, the good developers. There are a few developments that are getting ready to come online that you will not ever find on our website. I will not name names because I respect the developers. What I will say is the following. Consider when you are looking at, so we came up with a fun little, how can you say it, litmus test, if you will, sort of a way of assessing a situation. I tell here, quick story because, hey, it's the internet. I got all the time in the world. 30 seconds. Bon Jovi, 1980s, their tour went all over the world. They had like a 30-page contract that the local event organizer had to review, right? Dealt with everything, the height of the lights, the height of the stage, literally thousands of items. On page 26, section A1, ... said, in our waiting room, we want a bowl of M&Ms with no green M&Ms. So obviously, as soon as they got there, they went and checked that bowl. If it had green M&Ms, they knew that the concert promoter had not read the whole contract, so then they were going to have to recheck everything. If the green M&Ms were on, okay, maybe that was a sort of quick way to assess the situation. Here's a quick way to assess a pre-construction development. What kind of elevators you putting in? If they're putting in some no-name, you know, a cheap brand of elevator, dig a little more. Oh, okay, interesting. Well, how many elevators are you going to have in the whole project? Oh, okay, but you have 10 apartments per floor and 2 elevators? Wow, that pool is beautiful. Oh, man, I could get that apartment so cheap. But you don't want to live there because it's going to be a hot mess waiting for your elevator. That's one of the litmus tests we use to obviously, among 100 in terms of, hey, does the developer have financing? Is this their first project? What kind of track record do they have? Any complaints with Acco Deco? What kind of pre-construction requirements are they getting for financing? So there's 100 things that we look at, but for the DIYers out there that want to go directly to a developer, good luck with that, by the way. It'll be easy. It's easy to buy here. It's a little tricky to own and even harder to sell unless you got the right guys on your team. And we've been doing this since 2007. Sorry, it's hard when I'm not talking to anybody. I just go off on little tangents. Developer market right now is active. They have by no means reduced their pricing and are, in fact, holding a lot more to published prices. There's still some things you can ask for and get. I'm not going to share all of our secrets, but we know how to negotiate with developers. We know what to ask for. We know what to push for. We have precedents of what they've done in the past, and they also know that we represent, 100 more buyers after you, the buyer, right? So they want to do well by us because, and coincidentally or directly related, by our buyers, because obviously we're going to keep bringing people back to their project. So Costco, we're doing a huge push in Costco because Costco Viejo is awesome. Still on fire. Tons of new developments. I was just out shooting a video with my buddy Brian Wagner. Does a really great development out in Costco. It is about, let's call it, he'd love to say a year. I'm going to say year and a half-ish, maybe less actually. No, that's not true. It's not very high. But he's usually fairly accurate. So let's call it a year. It's going to be ready. Beautiful. The cool thing about his project and a few other projects is it's just outside of Costco Viejo, in Santana, which means that you have no height requirements or restrictions, let's call it. So that means you can get out above Costco. I'm not trying to do a promotion, but man, I love that project. And around him are about 300 other units in construction in an area that was really gritty about 5 years ago when I bought there. Yes. It's coming up. It's awesome. There's a big, listen, I'm not going to get into the details of that particular project. What I will tell you is that Santa Ana is happening right now. I was walking around at 6:30 at night and there was live music, just random little like street parties. It was cool. It's authentic. It's you don't find many tourists. It would be, or certainly will be, a great place to live once the project is done. It is textbook gentrification. And, when you get conscientious developers, they take care of the people that were living there before. Appreciation is inevitable in places like that. So, hey, maybe there's a little social conflict in terms of where these displaced residents go. But I think Panama's done a good job. There's a nice precedent for helping people relocate. So it is officially winter in Panama. Kind of fun. It rains a bit more down here. Schools are in full session, although the international schools will be getting out in the next few weeks. There are some great private schools on an international schedule and on a Panamanian schedule. Episcopal, La Salle, both good schools, both old Panamanian institutions. They are on the regular Panama schedule, which means like March till December. And then Panama summer officially is from like January to March. So don't get confused just because it's the summer in the US. But hey, it's always warm in Panama. So there you go. What else can I tell you about the real estate market? I think I've been yapping long enough, but I am excited about my new microphone. Hey. Thanks for watching, guys. Unless y'all have any other questions, I will probably sign out. Have a great day. I run a tight ship over here. You can count on us for both good information. If you haven't looked at Blood on the Streets yet, Google that. It was something I wrote back in 07 that I think is still relevant. And everybody on my team, straight shooters. I got 3 hiring criteria, and for what it's worth, in no particular order. You got to be hardworking. You got to have the ability to learn. And you got to be, ethics is learned in the house. You can't learn ethics from your boss. So anyway, everybody that works for me, straight shooting. So that's it, guys. Have a great day. Happy Monday. If you're not in Panama, get down here and give us a call. Thanks.